You don't need to be bitten by a spider to become a comic artist, but it does require specific knowledge and skills. Introducing Marvel's The Art of Storytelling, a new online course that will teach you the skills to make comics from start to finish. Join the course today.
We are here streaming. We're here on Proko. Today is almost the launch day for the brand new Marvel Comics making course. Today, I'm joined by Daniel Warren Johnson.
Sorry, forgot to close my studio door. Hello, everyone.
You're the creator of the recent Beta Ray Bill series, a way too freaking good Darth Vader Black and White chapter.
Oh, that's right.
And you've got creator-owned books, Do a Power Bomb, Extremity, among tons of other pieces of work. How's your day so far?
Good. Just been working on. I'm working on Transformers now with Skybound. So I was actually drawing a page or inking a page before this live stream, and did a little bit of writing as well, and drove my kid to theater camp.
Nice.
So, yes.
that's a whole day.
Yeah, busy day so far.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I don't know. You just to let everyone know who's here in the chat live, this will be something that you can watch afterwards as a VOD. It's totally there right now. And the thing that brings us here today is the fact that this is that almost launch day for the brand new course that I just mentioned. It's still 20% off right now until this Wednesday when it finally launches. Just go onto proko.com/Marvel, check that out. And now I promise we'll get into the stream. So what is it that you're going to be working on today?
So today, I'm going to be working on a bit of a kind of like a little 6x9 sketch of Daredevil kind of flying through the streets or the buildings of Hell's Kitchen. And we decided that he should be kind of facing down some ninjas. So that's what we are drawing with kind of highlighting the environment that he's in a little bit. I mean, it's going to kind of fade into the background, obviously, but we're definitely going to cover kind of a background and what makes characters kind of what is additive to characters in their environment and kind of how to bring that out. So that's kind of what we're going to be working on today.
Okay. Yeah, that is the main section of the course that you cover.
That's true.
Environments, perspective. You have like a nice little small section that's you kind of tackling how you handle perspective.
Yes. It's Yep. All different kinds of perspective for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I guess if we'll go ahead and switch over so people can see your desk.
Yeah. So this is a little messy right now, but it is a work in progress. I was just really tired, honestly, of working on and or paper. So I just kind of did a quick gouache, airbrush like background. I actually found that it just kind of makes things fresh if I'm feeling a little stuck. The pencil reacts differently to the paper as well as the ink when it's got paint on it already. So that's why we kind of have this thing going. So apologies, it's a little messy, but I guarantee we're going to be able to suss it out and figure it out. So, yeah. Actually, it's on the wrong way right now. It's supposed to be
there you go,
like this. So that probably makes more sense. So I guess we can zoom in, kind of highlight some of the things I've kind of blocked in so far. So as you can see, we've got some ninjas up here and a ninja over here. And then, of course, Daredevil here and another ninja down here. And it might be a little hard to see right now, but I've blocked in a very, very loose fisheye perspective grid, which I can talk about more or what have you. But that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
Okay. Yeah, I think the fisheye perspective is definitely a big question on every time we post something that's comics related. People are always looking for this.
Oh, yeah. So when it comes to, I mean, I'm not a technical kind of perspective person. I just know what looks right and what doesn't. So fisheye perspective is just like a fisheye lens. Everything coming to, oh gosh, how many perspectives is it? If it's like this.
I'm the worst at this.
Okay, hold on. We'll figure it out. So technically there would be I'll make first we'll start with our 1-point perspective grid. We all know this one. I'll just do this really quick. This is very loosey-goose. Doesn't matter. We're just getting concepts. And okay, so there's our 1 point perspective grid. Now, if it was only 1 point perspective, then all the rest of the lines would be straight, like, perpendicular, parallel, and so on. But we have a fisheye lens, so everything's going to be a little bent, which means that we have a vanishing point up here. There's a little arrow, and a vanishing point over here, and a vanishing point over here, which you can't technically see because it's too far away. It'd be like off the page. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vanishing points in a fisheye lens. But there's no way. I mean, like, I don't have time to sit and figure out technically exactly how it's supposed to look, so I just make it. I give it kind of a little. This is. I would tell you like the right way to do it, except this is literally how I do it. I'll go like this.
No, I think this is solid because it doesn't have to be super rigid in structure.
No. So just to remember that, the line that is straight is the line in the middle where it's touching the vanishing point on the main part of the page. And here, this is going to be straight. Then it'll be a little curved, a little more curved, a little more curved. And then down here, a little curved, a little more curved, a little more curved. And we're getting more and more intense the farther away we get from that top vanishing point there. And like, it doesn't look perfect, but it sure is convincing. I think it's enough for a comic book page or an illustration. And that's exactly what I have done here. Maybe not exactly, but there's a vanishing point up here and everything's kind of coming down to kind of like highlight the falling aspect of this composition. So, this is exciting stuff. I promise that things are also gonna like come together a little more as we go to inking, which is kind of most of the work for me anyway, and my process. So, but this is kind of how we got there. Now, another cool thing that you can do if you want, I'll just really quickly do this. Oh, sorry. Hold on. My paper's sticking together here.
I appreciate you breaking down the things that went into that first bit of the process.
Yeah, it's when I'm actually trying to figure out a composition and, the poor people of Proko are trying to ask me questions and I'm like, I am working. I wanted to get that out of the way so I could talk about it in this kind of detail. But so I'm just going to kind of pretend like I'm doing this right here, right? So I have my same thing. If I want it to be a little more exact, just a little more, I would do a one side. So this is going to be a little like this, a little bit more, a little more. Okay, so it's hard. It would be hard to do it for this way, but I found that for the most important thing for it to look right is the up and down. Like whatever's wider, that's kind of the grid that is most important, even though they are kind of all important. What I will do is I will take my. This is obviously if you're working traditionally, there's a million ways to do this digital, but you can take your grid, put it on a light box, what you've already sketched out, and you can. Let me just get my pencil. You can copy it. So this is a little light, but.
Yeah, we can see it in the shadow cast by your hand right now.
Right on. Okay. Yeah. So then I'm literally just going to trace it.
The highly technical fisheye perspective.
Yes, that's highly technical. But it was going to make a perfect, not perfect, but we're going to make a very close to perfect symmetrical copy of what we've made already. So let's see. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's coming together. And all I have to do then is copy it on this side. So and this mostly gets the job done for me.
Yeah.
But sometimes when I obviously messed this part up, but this gets the job done.
Yeah.
The job done.
So that's the thing that's behind the composition that we're about to see right now, under the little bit of wash and everything.
Yes, exactly. And honestly, even if there wasn't wash in there, there'd be so much pencil marks on it, you wouldn't be able to see it anyways. All right, so another thing that I've done is to try and so I kind of figured out my composition. There's a ninja here, a ninja here, Daredevil's here. I've got another ninja here. I think I'd like to have maybe like, I don't know, I kind of want like another ninja like here.
Now, as you're putting in more adversaries for the characters that you're drawing to fight, do you ever feel bad, like in some universe, you're actually making them have to go through worse and worse situations?
The bad guys?
No, the good guys. The bad guys are going to go through it. But
not really. I'm pretty heartless when it comes to setting up that kind of thing. The more is more, in my opinion. Okay, so I've also got like a little printout of just like random Hell's Kitchen shots, just to kind of get a vibe of like what I want to draw. And I've got my vanishing point right here. And so, again, I'm just kind of blocking in all of my spots here. And, I might even just, I don't know, let's see here. I've got my very loose grid here. And let's see, I might, you know what I need to do? I need to give myself my 1 point perspective grid, which I never actually did. So let's see.
And for anyone out there, not for me, what would be the purpose of having that 1 point perspective grid in there?
Well, you can't really have a fisheye without some sort of, 1 point or 2 point perspective grid on there.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has to be weighted down by like some sort of perspective.
Yeah.
You see what I mean in a second.
Yeah, I think for this one, that would be kind of like the idea that even if you're using a fisheye lens on something in the world, that's just warping what's like being presented closest to the camera.
Yep.
Would be your horizon, would still be essentially the same.
Correct. Which is why things like straighten out the closer they get.
Mm-hmm.
But you can kind of see, so I've made another grid here that's just making sure I'm covering all my bases when it comes to my 1 point perspective grid. So let's see. So now with this 1 point perspective grid, like I can drop in a little bit of it doesn't have to be perfect, but like you want to have my, what are these things called? Fire escapes. Sorry.
Right now, I'd be of no help with identifying parts of the composition.
Oh, because it's so crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I am kind of an insane person when it comes to like how hard I pencil. I fully realize that I'm kind of insane about this, so I apologize if anyone's having trouble figuring this out.
I think it's like the way that you're choosing to do it is kind of like you lay something in, and then rather than just making lines that are the rigid structure of something, you're kind of carving.
I am kind of carving, aren't I?
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's just see. Like if I move to ink, maybe things will make a little more sense. So what I like about this grid is I can just kind of have fun and start sketching, and it's not a big deal. So let's see. Looks like I need some ink in this here pen.
Oh, no.
I do.
So for anyone out there who is wondering, yes, we will be taking questions right now since we're establishing some of the stuff that's in the background of what this piece will be. I'm not going to drop any of those questions just yet, but look at them.
I can answer one question while I'm filling up my ink.
Okay. Yeah, sure. The first one that we have here is there a storytelling reason for why you would use fisheye?
Well, kind of like talking in like the middle or in the beginning of the video, I kind of wanted to have this element of like falling.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of that kind of out of control, spinning, overwhelming sense of, gravity. And I personally feel that Fisheye is really good at that. That's I feel like that's like the traditional way. It's also just completely extra. Like it's so extra. Um, a lot of times it's completely unnecessary, but it is so much fun to draw, and it produces such a cool effect that a lot of times I have trouble staying away from it. So I feel like it's very dramatic. It's very, 110%. It just has that kind of quality of too much, which I actually really like.
Yeah.
And
more is more.
Yeah, there's a lot of artists that would never do fisheye just because it's not really doesn't vibe with their storytelling style. But if anybody knows my work, they know just how extra I have a tendency to be.
And what is the pen that you're using right now?
I'm using a Parallel Pilot pen. It's a 6mm. And let's see. There we go. So here we're going to start blocking in some windows. And we're kind of keeping track of our grid. You can see how the arc of what we're drawing of that grid is kind of arcing down. I get an air conditioner in here. And I'm kind of looking, I have my little poorly printed out approximation of what like a Hell's Kitchen apartment building would look like. So it's not, I'm just kind of looking for little details that's going to help sell it. So like there's these like little horizontal like divots in the side of the building, which I'm adding right here. I'm going to add some more windows here. And this is kind of the, like, we're kind of in the nitty gritty right now, but I like doing that sometimes more than I like even drawing the main characters, because it's like, I like building out the environment, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, when you find yourself going through and trying to build out an environment in the beginning, but then you decide that you want more ninjas, is that okay? And then you go over, white something out, and just add more ninja? Or
sometimes I will, if I really want like more ninja, I'll like go back in with whiteout. But usually like when it comes to this composition, I've kind of blocked in all of the characters that I want, and I know they work. So I don't really have a problem not adding any more.
Okay. So typically predetermined quantities of ninja, but
sometimes. So unfortunately this ink is like sinking right into this paper. So
what is it? Are you on Bristol right now? Or
I'm on Bristol, yeah. It's just like completely like getting lost. Really ridiculous. Let's see. Gonna build some more. Also, you notice like I'm quite gestural with it. Man, come on, dude. Why is this being so annoying?
It's figuring out inks right now.
Yeah, sorry. One sec.
Someone did ask here, they said, you don't thumbnail? I think you definitely do. For this one, since this is more a demonstrative kind of thing, this one doesn't necessarily have to have so much of like a smaller composition before bigger composition.
Correct. Let's ink some Daredevil, shall we?
Yeah.
I'm actually going to turn it the other way. So, okay.
All right. So I guess since we're in a spot where you're doing some inking,
sure.
Let's talk about some things.
Sure.
I guess, were there any particular artists that kind of inspired you to start making comics?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think Bill Watterson is a big one. A huge one, actually. That was like pretty early days, proto Dan. Just figuring out like who I was as a person, as an artist. That's what a lot of my public library had at the time was like Calvin and Hobbes books. So that was a big part of it, just like going to the library, seeing what they had, and experiencing kind of all of like whatever that teen librarian was responsible for getting. So I remember Ranma 1/2 was another one. What else? The Dark Knight Returns. I read that at the library for the first time. Batman Year One. Gosh. So of course Frank Miller was a huge influence on me, even like as a young person. And then, gosh, what else? I would say definitely there's an artist, James Herron, that I absolutely love. He's more of a current day. He's like, a peer. He's working today. He's incredible. But without his work, I don't think I'd be here. No way would I be here, man. Oh my gosh.
Okay. Shout out to James Herron.
Yeah,
And Bill Watterson.
And Bill Watterson. Jack Kirby, of course.
Bill Watterson here in the chat, actually.
Oh, I wish.
If only.
He'd probably say all my stuff is too violent.
That's fair. I mean, we don't know that new project of his, right?
Is it? He's not drawing it, though.
No, this is true.
Yeah.
There was someone was asking if who is your favorite character to draw? Someone like never fails to inspire you to draw something. Do you think that's a pre-made character, someone made by someone else, or are those your own characters?
That's a good question. Does it like you mean like a Marvel character maybe?
Honestly, Marvel would be great, but if there's something else, that's totally okay. Everyone has different inspirations.
Okay, I'm thinking. Definitely Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime is always fun. Like giant robots, really great. I really love drawing the Scarlet Spider from Spider-Man, and makes an appearance in the new Spider-Verse. I was very happy about that. Sorry, I'm going to get a little close here because I need to ink his face. One sec.
This is those nice hair close-ups that everyone pays for. But yeah, so those are some of the characters and artists who really inspire you. Was there anything in particular that you took from those artists that you think still lives in your work?
I think for sure the way that Bill Watterson, how do I say it? His sense of movement and dynamics was like so hugely influential to me. And I don't know really like if I would be the same artist today without like seeing those panels of Calvin getting like smacked through the doorway when he gets home from school by Hobbes, that really was huge for me. Huge. And the way that like Hobbes would stretch when getting tackled, and like pushing the envelope of what, cartooning is, and stretching the human body and having a kind of personal kind of approach to drawing characters like that, where like nobody else draws like him, and how special that is, and how like always on the hunt for those kinds of that personality of those lines. So I'm gonna draw this ninja right now too.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Oh, you're good. I kind of want to like. There are some questions here, but if you want to just talk through the things that you're doing right now, I think that might be good. If you think there's anything to say about this.
Well, right now, so I am a well-known person that does not pencil very much. I do most of the final ink work in the inking stage.
Mhm.
Just because, it's like this is this is what is known as uh, the final pass, and I just want to get there as fast as possible because I have, you know, I'm usually on a deadline and I also just like going fast. I find that if I take too much time,
Mhm.
my work has a tendency to look a little dead.
Do you think that
And
was informed by your personality? Like,
I
do you
don't
think that
know, maybe, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. Um, I think mostly it was me trying to, sorry, let me get this right. It's mostly like I get impatient with my art fast if it takes too long.
mm,
Um, and any time that I tried to like fight against that and make something that, you know, looked like it took longer for lack of a better way to put it, the art would just suffer. So I like, it's kind of like self-preservation, it feel and saving my back, saving my body
mhm,
for a kind of so I can keep making art as long as possible.
mhm.
That's another reason, like not wanting to be at the drawing board every single moment of the day, wanting
Yeah.
to be able to, live a life. And
Go to
so yeah,
Renaissance fairs.
totally, which I
Yeah.
did this weekend. Yeah.
uh, do you think that that's something that you had to kind of push against when becoming a comic artist, or was there something that you think was like one of the biggest things that you had to find a way to live with being a comic artist?
I think one of the biggest things I had to live with was being like at peace with like who I am as an artist, and also at peace with the fact that there's going to be a lot of days and a lot of drawings that just aren't quite up to my like, you know, what I want to be what I think is quality,
Mhm.
and like perfection is an illusion, and learning how to let go of that, and that desire for perfection and being okay with it not looking absolutely perfect. And because like sometimes I just want things to be just right, and it's just impossible.
Mhm.
It makes the work it puts too much pressure on the work to always do that. I just really trying to be healthy about making lines.
Yeah.
We're not like comic book artists are not oil painters. Like we kind of have this uh, that we work in an exact medium with like very tiny brushes with very exact, you know, very like exact lines. And sometimes that can lead, I feel, to unhealthy practices when creating art because it's just,
Mhm.
you know, I really like to feel as free as possible. And you can see I'm kind of like inking without even like a pencil line right now,
Yeah.
just because I want to. I want to just experience it and have fun, and of course there's mistakes will be made, but that's what
Yeah.
whiteout is for.
Is there any kind of line that ends up being like a personal mantra for you when you try to remind yourself like it doesn't have to be perfect?
I mean, it's not a mantra, but I definitely like say a lot like perfection is an illusion,
Mhm.
because it is. And you know, and then, but I don't really repeat that to myself. I just ask my wife to say it's time to stop working. Put down the pencil, put down the pen, put down the ink. It's
Yeah.
time. It's time.
Uh,
Um,
a person asked a question here. They said, "Are there any cheats you'd like to incorporate in your art for comics? If yes, what are they?" I think one that we saw is the sounds about right, close enough for government work, fisheye perspective.
yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. Another thing, like we're not oil painters, and we're also not like industrial designers. Industrial designers, when they make stuff in perspective, it has to be exactly correct. Um, and we don't we have the luxury of not having to be exactly correct. It's like we work in a 2D medium that never technically has to get transferred to 3D.
Mhm.
It allows for a lot of freedom and a kind of like really laid back approach to line making and design and composition, which is like the best. It's the coolest that we get to do that. I'm going back into the background here now.
Are you trying to push things forward, or?
I know I just like wanted to make sure I got the ink lines here down right before I started going back to the background, which would be the what are they called? The fire escapes. Sorry. That.
It's just a mental. Have you had to like push fire escapes away from your mind? A traumatic incident, maybe?
I'm in the zone right now, so it's like I'm like not thinking correctly.
Yeah, you don't need words. It's only time for lines.
Yeah, exactly. Another cheat is the farther away I get from a central image, the more I will just start like fudging details.
Like on the outside of the frame, or?
Yes, like
okay.
So like down here, I'm just like I'm barely. I'm like, oh, let's do a canopy. Boom, 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 boom. It doesn't like, if things look too great everywhere, sometimes it's hard to get the detail you want out of an image.
Yeah,
to tell the story that you want to tell.
Yeah, this is a principle from comics to fine art. If everything is in focus and highly detailed, nothing is the focus.
Yep. And so it's kind of about like, being smart with the way that you work.
Mm-hmm. Right now, the section you're in, I think you're.
Oh, sorry.
I think you're gonna be bouncing around a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I do have a tendency to do that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. I got my fire escape here. I'm going to go back to my pen here and see if I can get some more. Hell's Kitchen is a whole lot of windows.
Which is interesting because I feel like in Hell's Kitchen and everything I know of Hell's Kitchen, most of those windows are going to get broken like once a week.
Right.
It seems like a liability.
Yeah, totally. Especially with Daredevil and ninjas around.
And so many of them. There was a person in the chat here asking if there's something in your career that you're most proud of. Maybe it's a piece or even a single panel that you look at and you're like, yeah, I did a great job there.
I definitely have single panels that I love. They're usually per project. I have like a favorite panel per project that I'm really into. When it comes to other things, usually what I end up being most proud of is like books or titles that I've worked on. Mm-hmm. And usually it's creator owned in nature. So
yeah,
I had a book that was coming out last year called Do a Powerbomb. Mm-hmm. Wrestling book, and I had such a good time working on that book. I mean, it was great.
Yeah, really, it was a good one.
Fun. Yeah, thank you. I'm really proud of it. I'm proud of the story that I told. I'm proud of the art that I did. I busted my butt on. Holy, my butt. And I think it shows.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the one I think that gets mentioned most here. Like in this chat, we've already had a few mentions of that book. And people saying that it was great, they loved it. Yeah, I think it's definitely a big one.
Heck yeah.
With you being a person who is so dynamic with your art, what do you think are kind of the most important things that you have to make sure are in your panels? Like, is it like a leading line kind of thing? Just the action, movement in the lines?
I think composition probably is the most important because I'm so crazy with like how fast I go and my approach to line making that the composition I feel like has to be pretty darn solid in order for it to not look too busy. Mm-hmm. Which it's looking quite busy right now. It's fine. Like hopefully it's starting to come together.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Okay. There are people here in this chat. I know you don't have that chat up, but there's someone saying that looks stunning. And some other things like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, so they're definitely seeing where all of those lines are going now.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. It's like a strong composition, even if it's crazy, where the colors are kind of all over the place and maybe I shouldn't have done a colored background because it makes it harder to see. I apologize for that.
Oh, it's okay. Half the videos that we do, right now we're doing a drawing basics course, and so much of that ends up being like a red pencil or a light pencil because it's still learning sketching. 'Cause it's so early
Yep.
days, and so many videos are like, well, can you zoom in? Can you enhance this kind of thing? Because it's just the nature of the beast for drawing on camera.
Oh yeah. So I'm also like continually looking back at my very casual reference to try and find like some more like little visual cues to something that'll help me sell it to be like Hell's Kitchen. So let's see here. Let me see. I think some just yeah.
How long would you say that it takes you normally to complete a full page on maybe like a personal book, and then what that's like for working with one of the bigger publishers?
Like a page is anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. It's about a full working day, which is how it, and that's kind of how I know what has. I'm gonna zoom in here just to show how like gestural I get with the cityscape. And sometimes it takes a little more, sometimes it takes a little less, but that's a pretty good approximation of kind of how I approach things. And if it's taking longer than 8 hours, it usually means that something bad has happened. And I need to kind of reassess how I'm making something. I found that if I am too precious with my lines, like kind of as I was talking before, it will often lead to a page that takes too long, which is no good.
Yeah. And do you think switching from maybe using like a different tool, something that kind of makes you work more rigidly, like fine liners, over to a brush pen has been something that helped you speed up?
Well, I still use fine liners all the time. I sometimes it's not about not using something, it's about finding what works and what helps me draw faster in a more kind of fun way. So like one of those things is this pen, the parallel pen. It's so great for working on like buildings and details, like like stuff that's geometric kind of naturally. Because like I'm gonna draw.
I think we're on a different part of the horizon than you.
Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah.
I'm going. Yeah, I bounce around like nobody's business. I have a YouTube channel where I just draw live every Friday, and I don't have like a person to tell me when I do that, and so I'll look up at the chat after 15 minutes, and everyone's like, "Can you please go back to your drawing?" Oh yeah.
Yeah, if people are looking for that, is that under any particular name or just your own on YouTube?
Just look up my name on YouTube, Daniel Warren Johnson. You'll find me.
There you go. Soft plug.
Yeah. Oh, you know it.
Was that always be closing?
Yeah, always be closing. So I'm also, I don't know if you could see that, like I was on the edge of the drawing there, like right here, and I'm fudging. It's like I'm like barely. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It happened again. Oh.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah. So this is like the suggestion. This is that carving.
Exactly. Oh, sorry, dude. I promise I'm not trying to do this on purpose. This is literally.
If this was on Twitch, I would expect everyone to clip out specifically that moment. That'd be so great. Oh man.
All right, so let's see here. I'm gonna add some more detail. So things are getting a little lost. I'm gonna go back in with some gouache later and kind of just pull out some of the characters, so it's so they can be a little more separate from the background.
Yeah.
But I kind of like, honestly, like how messy it is right now.
Do you like working in that kind of stage where it's kind of like lay-in of things, and then you discover the piece afterwards, and then come back and refine it?
I think it's really fun because I don't do this that often. Like usually it's like black and white only. Got to get it done. I'm on a deadline. You know, I don't really have time to do it, which makes me very appreciative when I can take some extra time to, you know, like find a piece in this way, which I'm not always able to do because I have my process, and so I am varying it up a little bit here just because I really needed. I was having trouble with this composition, and to just kind of help me find it better. Sometimes I found working on a colored background can make things a little more, just like a little more approachable and a little more fun. It's just a way to vary it up, and keep things interesting for me as an artist, so I don't, just variation is the spice of life, so they say. And I think the same applies to line making. It's different. It's a different experience to make lines on a colored background, which, it's like kind of artsy fartsy in a way, which, can be good and bad. But I'm having a nice time, even though it's a little hard to suss out because the values are not really.
It's not quite so separated, but
it's not separated. But yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah. There was a question. I imagine this will probably end up with you walking away to grab something. But what are your opinions on maintaining a sketchbook? Do you often use one, or do you prefer inking pages like these?
Oh, I have a sketchbook that I work in almost every day. I keep it next to me most of the time. I'm not sure where it is right now. I can get it. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
It's literally right here.
Yeah, just to answer, he has volumes and volumes of his sketchbooks.
I have 46 sketchbooks now.
Which is great. Later on, when you decide that you want to take more time going to Renaissance fairs, you'll just have some company compile and sell each of those volumes.
Yeah, so these are, let's see. I went to a wrestling show recently, and I made this. So I took the ticket, I glued it on, and I just kind of drew over it because I felt like it. So it's a way for me to kind of experiment with new things. And I drew snake eyes a bunch recently. That was fun.
Look at that.
So it's just a way for me to experiment, and a lot of times I'll try new mediums, or new techniques, and that's like the very first place where I'll try it. Most of my story ideas come from a sketchbook now.
Discovering characters,
exactly. A lot of conceptual art and design are done on there. Yeah.
Someone was asking, how do you keep a character in perspective?
How do I keep a character in perspective? Yeah. I think you mean like when it comes to like blocking out like a character like in a scene like this.
Yeah.
I just try and stay mindful of where the angle is, and keep in mind the perspective grid in a general way, just in a general way. I don't like to like put them in a box. I think Kim Jong-ji would teach that, because it's just too stiff.
Yeah.
I like just kind of riffing with it, and sometimes I'll make a mistake, but that's why an eraser is there.
For this one, can you zoom in a little bit?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh my God, it's so tiny.
There we go.
Yeah, but like that's really loose, but it totally works. And even with this composition, like I'm kind of bending the rules anyway. Like if it was really a fisheye lens, like his Daredevil's feet would look so different.
Yeah, like the foot that's closer to the camera would probably be real close.
100%. 100% it would.
But I guess like in that moment, you kind of choose what's most important for composition and for tone. Like if this was for some crazy cover and you decided to, like put a logo kind of like popping out from behind the foot, maybe you choose to emphasize that, but that's not really the purpose of this piece.
Right. Exactly. So I've got some acrylic ink here that I'm going to just do some highlights with. I'm not going to use that because I need to dip it. I have a Japanese G-nib right here that I'm going to use, and just kind of I'm going to do some detailing on Daredevil here.
For the eternal question, so you mentioned that you're going to use a G-nib and some white ink. Where do you go to for these awesome specific supplies you get?
Usually Blick. Like I'll get like the acrylic ink is at Blick. You can get all sorts of stuff at there. I go to Jet Pens a lot for some of the more I have a lot of Japanese pens that I use, and I'll get those at usually Jet Pens.
Mm-hmm.
If I am able to get to a Kinokuniya store, there's one in the Chicagoland area. Does he have a logo on his head?
I'm not too sure. And there's so many different versions. Let's see.
This is going to be embarrassing.
Not in the main things I'm seeing here.
Shoot.
But that's okay. This, for this version he does. This is a Daniel Warren Johnson design special.
It's okay. Well,
yeah,
we'll fix it.
Like 2 months from now, there's going to be some version of this character that's got a logo on his head, and you'll get to sue, and it'll be great because you were at market first with it.
There you go. You heard it here first, everyone.
What do you think are some of the most important skills for you as a working artist? Do you think those are limited to art, or do those even go into some other area like business?
I think ultimately talent is the most important thing. It's the easiest way to keep your integrity in this business, and 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 be able to like sleep at night, in that sense of the word. But it's not the be all end all. To be a working person in this industry, I think it takes a lot of work and a lot of willingness to push. So maybe talent isn't the number one thing. Maybe it's a willingness to continue. Because I had a lot of talent, but I had not really put the work in for a long time until I had a job that I really didn't like. And when I finally had a chance to get away from that job to do comics, I saw the grass was not greener, or rather I'd been on the other side of the fence, and I was like, nope, I cannot stand the job. I never want to go back to that. Let me make sure that I do the work needed so that I don't have to do that job again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of vibe.
I think this makes sense. Yeah. One of the biggest things that I think is one of the most important things to have and try to create in yourself is that willingness to persevere in the creative arts. It's a constant. Yeah.
A constant struggle indeed, dude.
Yeah.
And trying to push and fight against stagnation, I was one of the reasons why I'm doing this on colored paper now, because I needed a bit of a change,
Yeah. Well, I think especially in those times when you're having to look at just something that is the same so often, it makes the same work come out of you. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to be able to have variation and have a large skill set. And so let's see. Hold on. I got one sec.
During this little break here where Daniel's focused, just want to remind everyone there are just a couple days left before the actual start of that course. And when that course starts is when the pre-sale launch window does end. So if you're interested in what you're seeing here and you want to learn how to try to make these things yourself, now's the right time. If you wait any longer, It does end up costing a little bit more, which is okay because we got so many people together for this one. Daniel's just one among a whole bevy of people. For this one, you got Jim Zub, Ryan Benjamin, Mark Morales, Mike Hawthorne, Aaron Conley. We got Aletha Martinez, Sanford freaking Green, Matthew Wilson, Eric Gist, and CB Cebulski himself. Like, it's just, this course is dummy thick with talent.
Totally, dude.
So a person was asking, colored paper, is that construction paper? It looks like you hit this with an airbrush.
Airbrush and some acrylic ink with like a brush, like there's quite a few strokes, brush strokes on here. But I am having a, let's see, what sorry, one sec. I'm coloring in eyes.
It's a big focus moments.
Yeah, dude.
This is the part where you're deciding what's most important to have pop out. I think it's really easy to end up just adding one thing too many, and then nothing's important.
Yes, exactly. Like, I can't really decide what exactly to highlight other than Daredevil here.
I think the eyes are definitely a good one. I think your hardest part in this is going to be deciding whether to still have the ninjas also be lit from top down, like this white is kind of implying.
Yeah.
It's a full moon kind of night. City's dark. The ninjas are bright. Sword here in the chat. I just purchased this course. Is it a good investment if you're an artist trying to get to improve? Absolutely.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I think there are a bunch of courses I think out there that are just someone talking about like small hacks for this or that in Photoshop or something. But everything that's in this course is foundational skills that you can take across the traditional digital media. It can be applied to animation, even filmmaking with the parts that we're talking about for composition. There's so much in there.
I am now going to erase some of these pencil lines and just kind of see what we're left with, because sometimes I can rely a little too heavily on the pencil marks that I make. So I'm also not going to pencil over any of my lines that I have just done with whiteout, because that would be terrible. I'm being very careful. Don't worry, everyone. And, I think also one thing that is cool about the Marvel course is we have multiple perspectives. We have people that are colorists. We have people that are writers. We have people that are writer artists. We've got people that are just artists. There's something in there for everyone who wants to be who wants an avenue to start creating comics in a way that, Marvel comics are created. It makes me think of like the video version of drawing comics the Marvel way. By, of course, the legendary Stan Lee.
Yeah, those classic VHS tapes.
Oh, no, the book.
Oh, goodness. You're talking about a whole different thing.
I'm talking about how to draw comics the Marvel way with, that book that like changed my life.
Yeah, I always, the title of that old VHS and then on like the video series and that book always gets so intertwined in my mind.
Yep.
Because there's that video where Stan's just like walking up behind some guys at the drawing desk.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I forget who it is, but there's one person who's just like, yeah, I'm drawing.
Oh yeah, I don't know who that. I forget who that is, but I know what you're talking about.
This is great energy.
So I was actually talking about the book that came out when, in the 80s, 90s.
So it's 80s or 90s, just judging by like the look of the art in there. But I don't know exactly.
Okay, let's see. Well, I've definitely done I've done some legwork in like bringing out the characters from the foreground, from the background. I mean, I'm not quite sure how much more to go for here.
Well, if you were taking this piece and this was something that you were going to hand over to a colorist. Would this be the kind of stage where you would, or would you have some other things that you would want to make sure and indicate for them?
Oh goodness, this is way past bringing to a colorist.
Like this has to be.
This is like kind of my jam at this point. Like,
okay,
you know, and maybe I should have only done black and white, but this is like the kind of vibe where it's like me trying to make it exciting. And it is exciting because I have no idea what I'm doing at this point. You know, when it comes to color, when it comes to bringing characters out from a foreground in a colorway, you notice that I'm just using white because I'm too scared to do anything else. But yeah, if I were to do any sort of, if I was to include a colorist in this, I would definitely be giving this to my colorist, Mike Spicer, to handle just in a black and white sense. I would not be doing anything else. And I think I'm going to actually add more. Hold on one sec.
Some little drawing ASMR there. Now, did you choose to do the, like you have the line going across everything for this, that cable? Is that kind of to help like reinforce the perspective that you chose?
Yeah. It's just to kind of center everything, and I thought it would look cool. And I am a big proponent of like using kind of the tools, like the literal tools, like the weapons, as a kind of a contextual kind of grounder. I think it can make things look really cool, and it's just a good compositional tool. You know, it's cute, you know, but it works. And okay, I'm gonna just grab a little bit of gouache. I'm sorry I didn't get it ready before.
Oh no, feel free.
I'll be right back. Okay.
Yeah. If you guys have some more questions about the course here, I can try to answer some of those verbally in the meantime. I think that there were a couple that I had seen. I think like there were definitely some questions keep coming up about the perspective thing. We did talk about those a little bit in the beginning of it. This will be available as a video on demand afterwards. For anyone who's interested in rewatching some of the first foundational processes, some of those things will get addressed if you go back to watch that first part, if you missed it. And then let's see. Some other things that we get to see in the course that I think always end up kind of coming up for artists is what tools are you using for this? Why are you using those tools? And some other parts. But all of those get answered by the different artists in their particular sections because they are all working with such a different skill set and purpose for their duties. So Daniel has a section where he's talking about some tools that he's using. Sanford does the same. Some of the inkers do that. The coloring in this course is done all digitally, but those concepts will work. They'll get to be applied to each different kind of medium that you'd be using. And one person that we have coloring in this is actually doing an oil painting for a cover. So it's crazy.
Alrighty. We're back.
Welcome back. So you went to go grab gouache, right?
I did. Just, you know, just a little. Just nothing crazy. Just a little thing.
Yeah.
Cool. Just to kind of bring out some of the ninjas because they're not really coming out right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to be fair, that is kind of the duty of a ninja, right? Like they're not going around wearing like high vis vests.
That's very true. That's a good point, bro.
Like they're doing their job, and we shouldn't call them out for this.
Totally. Just gonna give them just a little bit of contrast here, just a little.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any more questions in the chat? Now that I'm doing coloring, I can kind of talk a little more.
Yeah. So, do you use personality traits as a way to build the world around a character? I don't know if you want to address that in an art way or as a person who's writing comics as well.
Well, I am writing comics too, and I think that overall, I use personality when this questioner talks about personality traits, you mean like when writing a scene, or like when, like, I know they said building a world, but I guess I'm not sure how I would build a world from like personality traits, but I guess I'm trying to just think about what that would mean.
I think for me, because this was a pretty early question, there wasn't really much drawing at that point.
Okay.
The kind of way that I choose to take this one is probably on a writing level, and it would be, do you try to have the personality traits of those artists kind of be indicative of the world?
I think I kind of treat personalities fairly. They're fair. I use them in an intimate way. I find that the world is the world, and however I can make it fit into the visual design of the character, that's something that's more along my speed. When it comes to like personality traits, I'm tackling that in a way that's going to move just the story forward, and not so much using it as like a world building thing.
I see. I think that's fair.
But I mean, there's not really a wrong way to do it. I should say that.
Agreed. Yeah, I think there's so many things that people treat as kind of like rigid structures of how to do something.
True.
And like, just do the thing that feels good. And if after you do the thing, it actually feels bad as a person viewing it, try something different.
Yep. Agreed.
How was it that you ended up getting into comics? What was it that you did that kind of got you your first job? Was it coming in fully formed as a person making comics, or did you do some other small part of the process first?
Oh no, I worked on a webcomic for a long time called Space Mullet, and that was my main thing that I would do on the side while getting paid to do other stuff. And I was not making comics I started making comics in summer of 2012. I didn't start really getting paid for comics until, oh gosh, the November 2013. So and it was like a video game comic that someone asked me to work on.
Oh,
for Dark Horse, yeah, like a video game adaptation kind of vibe. And so it was fun. It was for EVE Online, True Stories. But until then, yeah. Yeah, dude, you know about EVE Online?
Yeah, no, they did actually have a lot of comics that came from that. Even EVE Valkyrie had a whole comic series. Like,
yeah, dude, it's no joke.
That's a lot.
It was a lot, and it was cool, but it was an insane amount of work. And I was thankful for the opportunity, but also at the same time, I was like, just by the time I finished, I was like, what was that? Like, what even was that? I had to draw so many spaceships, all to like the correct scale, and like, yeah, dude, it was intense.
Yeah, since that's like one of the main currency things of the game. Even it would be so rigid.
It was very rigid, and a lot of the ships, they're like kind of, here's the bottom of the ship, here's the top of the ship, and it moves around like this. And trying to fit that into like a horizontal panel, impossible.
Yeah, like did that kind of thing because of the kind of, I guess, the story. Actually, this is kind of like the issue of getting delivered a script. Because of what you're being given, it kind of dictates what you can draw.
Right.
Do you think that that's one of the biggest differences between working for a bigger company and on a creator-owned book? You can just say, no, you know what? There's an awning down there. That doesn't have to be a full building.
That's why I write and draw my own comics. So I'm not as beholden to the kind of crazy whims of of whatever creative is also working on the book. There's a lot more agency this way, which I really like, and it's something that makes it so that I'm able to, continue to do my job in a way that I'm happy with. Not everybody likes to do that. I know I'm a little bit of I'm kind of an oddity in that way. I am not like a lot of other comic book creators, but I really love being able to kind of build my own world, and the way that I approach it is my own, and that goes for creator-owned stuff,
Mhm.
and it goes for stuff like I worked on Beta Ray Bill for Marvel, and I was able to basically not do whatever I wanted, but pretty darn close.
Mhm.
If it worked for the story that I needed, I made it happen. And,
Yeah.
yeah, dude.
Did you choose Beta Ray Bill? Was this your pitch kind of thing? And if you did, was that something that you chose because you'd have a little more freedom with it not being such a highly looked at character?
I think that was definitely part of it. I think ultimately I just really wanted to work on Beta Ray Bill. I think if you mentioned CB Cebulski,
Mhm.
he came up to me and at Marvel, he came up to me at C2E2 one year in Chicago, and he was like, "We'd love you to be part of the Marvel, family. We want you to come do something for us. Like, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Oh, Beta Ray Bill." And I don't know, maybe he thought I was going to say like Wolverine or whatever big A-list character here, and I was like, oh, it's got to be. I just love Beta Ray Bill so much.
Yeah.
Um,
I did notice when looking up earlier, because every once in a while Marvel kind of chooses to like remarket things after the fact.
Sure.
There's an extra little word or like a colon title tacked onto your Beta Ray Bill book now.
Yeah, it's Argent Star, right?
Yeah, I had never seen that before.
Yeah, that was my idea because I wanted to just differentiate it from. I didn't want it to just be like Beta Ray Bill issue 1.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to try and because it was a mini series. That's the main reason why we did that.
Yeah.
And so it just has a bit of a. It's not just like Beta Ray Bill, the Beta Ray Bill story. Yeah, that was the reasoning behind that.
Okay, this makes sense. It does make it a lot easier. I remember trying to look up the first Jane Foster Thor issues, and I think she's just called like Secret Wars Thor.
Yep.
No, it's a little harder.
Yeah, and it was I wanted to do my very best to be able to make this a book that would stay on the shelf and be relevant for a little while, hopefully longer than whatever, like insert whatever character that like has their moment and then kind of recedes into the background. Because I know Beta Ray Bill, he's not, like you said, he's not A-list, and
despite it's not indicative of quality at all. Great character.
No, it's just Marvel didn't want to do it for a while because they didn't think a Beta Ray Bill book would sell.
Yeah,
which is fair.
Just imagine like the pitch for that. Yeah, he's kind of like Thor, but he's different colors and he's got like a horse skull for a face.
Yep,
it's a little harder to sell. I get it.
Yeah.
There's one person. So, yeah. There's a person here in the chat, Simon, saying those smile highlights make those characters way more interesting. What is it that is kind of motivating you choosing where to highlight, where to color, where to push things into shadow?
Mostly, I'm trying to bring Daredevil out, which I feel like maybe I kind of ruined with the windows. I think maybe they're a little too much, so I'm actually gonna go back and try and get rid of those, get rid of their intensity. But because it's gouache, shouldn't be too hard of a. Let's see. Watch me totally ruin this. Yeah, just like kind of getting rid of that intensity.
Is for you? Is there a this piece is ruined kind of thing, or is it usually
100%,
something out?
100%. I probably should have played it safe when going live, but I totally didn't.
The Daniel Warren Johnson story.
Yeah, this is like Proko asking me to do something, and I'm like, yeah, let me just do a full gouache watercolor piece of Daredevil flying down. But it just keeps it interesting, and it keeps it fun, and that's what's most important to me.
Yeah.
Is, keeping it fun, keeping it interesting, challenging myself in new ways. That's
Yeah, I think that actually might answer a little bit of this question, but there's a question here that was, what's the hardest thing to do when it comes to making a creator-owned comic?
just the beginning part. Making it come together, figuring out if the story is worth telling. It's a challenge. It can be really hard, to the point where you start thinking to yourself, like, is this dumb? Is this a bad idea? Like, what have I done? That is real, and I it's something that I struggle with, and I feel like a lot of other creators do as well. Maybe they don't, but I definitely do. Knowing where to start, knowing how to get into the story, and wondering if what you have made is even worthwhile. That can be a real challenge.
Is there anything that you found kind of helps you to determine that, like if where you're at is worth following through?
Not really. It's more I've found with creator-owned books that it's like one of those things where you have to put all your cards on the table and you just hope for the very best. And if you believe in it, I found that it usually works out, but that's not by no means a guarantee.
Yeah.
I am so thankful for the books that I have been able to make, and I look back and I'm like, how the heck did I make this? Like, that's honestly, like, sometimes how I look at my past work, and it feels a little crazy, but it's definitely a worthwhile endeavor, one that I feel really good about, and one that I want to continue doing. And part of it is, if you don't know where to start, not giving up on it and just going for it in a kind of like bullheaded way, where you just refuse to give up on it, and you're like, I am going to make this, and we're going to see how it goes, and letting one thing lead to another. But yeah, it's Godspeed to whoever asked that question.
Just good luck out there.
Yeah, good luck out there, dude.
Is there anything that you would want to remind people of when they're trying to make art, like those things that you think are the biggest pieces of advice?
Yeah, I'd say that I think that one of the most important things is there's always going to be plot holes, so don't worry too much about making your story perfect. Just as much as I'd say don't worry so much about making your art perfect. Because, again, perfection is an illusion. It just does not exist. And the only thing you're going to do is make yourself crazy. And, if someone's like critiquing your story on Goodreads, being like, well, this doesn't make any sense, and that doesn't make any sense, and why did they do it this way? Well, they're not a storyteller. And I catch myself doing this sometimes, going on Goodreads and getting into, arguments with people in my mind. Like, you just don't understand.
What's the farthest you've gotten to hitting enter and posting your reply?
I've never gone that far. Let's see. Sometimes what really gets me frustrated is, like, if I do a story about Beta Ray Bill, everybody wonders where some random, like, character that, like, once hung out with Beta Ray Bill is.
Oh yeah, like where's Smigglesmack? He was so important in issue 22.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, this is not about Smigglesmack. Like, this story is not about him. Come on, get with the program.
Smigglesmack, Argent Star.
Yeah, or Beta Ray Bill, all the characters that you don't care about.
Yeah. Oops, all Beta Ray Bills.
Yeah, so like, and so because like, so the reason I say that is, like, sometimes it can be so scary to start because you're like, well, I need to figure out all the little plot points, and the reality is that any panel that I draw could be illustrated probably in a better, more dynamic way. Like, it probably could, but I need to sacrifice perfection, and I need to let go and just make, because the finished product is going to be better than having nothing at all.
Yeah.
And the same goes for writing stories, which sometimes I feel gets that rhetoric sometimes gets left behind uh, in the conversation of making things.
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah,
it's like treating it like it should be easy, and it's just like I feel like, especially later books, creating something from nothing is like so difficult. It's like kind of a holy thing, you
mhm.
know. It's like this holy struggle that,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like you're literally pulling universes out of empty white pages.
yes, literally. I mean, not to be romantic about it, but like we're making, we're like it's like a little baby miracle every time we do it, and I think we don't often remember that
Mhm.
or don't remember it enough.
When you're having to kind of like constrain that process of creating something from literal nothing, but then you also have to make it work within the requirements of a big like a big company like Marvel.
Sure.
How do you kind of try to balance those things? Where do you find it's okay to try to add personality?
Well, honestly, working on books for Marvel or DC or whoever is child's play relative to working on my own stuff.
Hmm.
I feel like the stakes are a lot lower. Um, the characters have already been made, so I don't need to worry as much about character design, motivations, personality. So much of the groundwork has already been done, and I really, it's almost like a break working for companies like Marvel, because there is so much I don't have to do that I do have to do with things like uh, do a poem. I had to figure
Mhm.
out the tone. I had to figure out this. I had to figure out like character designs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Like
it's really really harder than working on something like Beta Ray Bill. And like as much as I want to make an amazing Marvel story, like I I know this is about a Marvel course, but like I care so much more about my own creator-owned stuff than I do about like how Beta Ray Bill is received. So it's just easier for me to sleep at night, honestly, like when working on Beta Ray Bill than it is working on like Do a Power Bomb, where it's like it's all me. Like there's nobody else I can blame if this thing sucks.
mhm. I
Uh,
think it's fair. Yeah, like the way that I've always referred to working on something from a bigger publisher or even just someone else's IP in general is that it's just playing with someone else's toys.
yes, literally.
Like you don't have to sit there and try to like figure out, well, like we're on a different planet now. Is gravity different? Is their day longer? Like you just have all of those things already done.
Yes. Yeah, like what are the rules of Asgard? Let me ask my editor.
Hmm.
Not let me think about it for 3 weeks before I can write issue 2.
Yeah.
Whatever sci-fi book I'm working on.
Uh, Saman here is coming through with the good questions, and they asked, "Is there a reason behind not putting highlights on the horns of Daredevil? Is it because they are small?"
I guess you could try it.
Bam.
I don't
Okay,
know.
you're a collaborator now, Saman.
Does it work? Does this work? I don't know if it works.
I like it being so small and being on the opposite side of the cable there.
Sure.
I think that kind of works, but I do think that you were right to kind of push it a little bit, like dab it out.
Yeah.
I'm not against this. There you go. Congratulations, Saman. People in the chat are really going off on the Smiggle Smack universe here. I'm really glad that like a not terrible name came out when I reached for name jazz from the universe.
Yeah. Well, I remember I worked on a Wonder Woman book, and it was like all the heroes had died except Wonder Woman, and people just could not deal. They were like, "Oh, that would never happen. Where's Green Lantern? Why is he not saving the day?" I'm like, "Because this is a story about Wonder Woman."
Well, do you think that's part of the price that you pay for having the whole universe supplied to you and not having to do that forethought?
No, I think that's just honestly people that don't really know how to enjoy a good story. um, you know, it's fine, but There's it does. I don't let it bother me too much, but every once in a while. I by no means is this behavior healthy to go on to Goodreads.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend this one.
Nope. This is what not to do, guys.
Yeah. I think it's important. Oh, you put in some little ambient occlusion in there on the back side of the arm.
Yep. And one thing that drives me crazy about gouache, that is what it is, but it's quick and it goes down quick, but it's so opaque that it will cover my liner sometimes, and so I have to go back over it. Which, watercolor is not opaque enough to work where it will cover what I want it to cover. So, but again, like, I'm so messy. I'm not good at this.
What is it that makes you choose to go for something like opaque watercolors, or even just like normal watercolors, over just having a whole bevy of markers on the side?
I think markers over, like, I do have markers and I do love using them, but they are kind of a blunt instrument. They can be kind of tough to make work. Maybe that just means I need to buy thinner markers. Because like with those like
Poscas? Yeah.
I could definitely make those work. But there's also a nice textural thing that happens with gouache. It's just, for me, I need to go back over it a little bit in order for it to really work for me.
As a person who's working mostly traditionally, what is it that you think has you working mostly traditionally instead of having an edit undo button or being able to make layers and whatnot in some program?
A few things. There's an immediacy to traditional work that I really appreciate. There's an element of devil may care approach to line making, which you can't. I haven't been able to recreate with digital. I think also I've tried to work digitally before, and the Control-Alt-Delete button is something that has been prohibitively. It's been like a problem for me because I can't get it to. I can't chill. Like, I can't. Like that's always been something I've really struggled with. And maybe that's a personality problem and not an art problem, but it's just the way I've always been. But yeah.
I think it's important to know yourself, what your strengths and weaknesses are in art. I think that can inform so much what you use and even what jobs you take.
Yeah, totally. Go ahead.
As a person who gets to walk both, you're walking between all the planes, the indie books, the big publishers. How do you kind of balance that stuff professionally? Like, do you have someone that you work with for this?
You mean like an agent?
Yeah, or anyone who chases down payments, who finds new books for you, carries your pitches through.
I have an agent that shops some of my stuff, my creator-owned stuff, to the Hollywood peeps. But that's, it's not like I'm making 1 million books a minute, so that's not something that's not a person that I interact with that often. Let's see, what else? I work. My wife schedules all my podcasts. I get a lot of podcast requests.
I can only imagine.
Oh my god, it's really overwhelming.
So if someone's trying to reach out to have you be on a podcast, do you want them to still reach out, or you want them to chill for a couple months?
No, you can reach out. It's no big deal. I just can't guarantee that it's going to be a yes. So yeah, that's a big part of it. Working with my wife Rachel. Other than that, I have an original art rep that I use, that sells all of my original art.
I believe if anyone's going to San Diego Comic-Con, around that booth is where they'll be able to find you.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be signing. I'm doing stuff with the Hasbro booth as well, doing signings for Transformers and that kind of thing too.
For anyone who's trying to scroll through things to see where's Danny Warren Johnson at San Diego Comic-Con, what is the name of that art rep?
Felix Comic Art.
Wonderful. They have a podcast also. I think you might have been on that at some point.
Oh, I'm sure. I've been on it a few times. I even hosted one.
Ooh.
I hosted one episode. I was very proud. But yeah, it's all about like original comic book art. And there's some crazy stories out there of just all sorts of different people trying to get their hands on like Dark Knight art, etc. Very, very interesting stuff.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one to get to hear all those different stories.
Oh my gosh. It's really cool.
I think for you guys, I think we have about half an hour left in this. If you guys have any questions, please drop them in here. Let's try to make sure you guys get the most bang for your buck for being here during all of this. Just as a reminder, we are here today because of this Marvel course. It's just that one last little bit before the course launches. If you're here later, chances are you probably missed the pre-sale window, but there's a lot of different instruction in there. Daniel's portion of that is all about environments, making them look nice and juicy or nice and dry, depending on what they need.
Mm-hmm.
What is the section of this that you're on right now?
On this piece or on the course?
In this drawing, I see. I don't know if you're like taking stock of something.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, you're
I did
good.
it again. I'm just trying to give the. It's this like delicate balancing act between pulling out the ninjas and not going overboard with the detail.
Mm-hmm.
There's this like really. One thing I like about doing when I work on color over, there's like this nice textural element that just like looks really nice, and I don't want to lose that totally. Like in the background, you see this texture right here. I'll zoom in for you. There's really nice, kind of chalky compared to the very flat, kind of gouache look.
Yeah.
And so just trying to make sure I'm not doing too much. I don't want to do too much detail here.
Okay. Let's see. I like this. You're zoomed in and we're in that area right now. This is good. This is good. The stars have aligned.
I do apologize for my my lack of I wish I could say my live streams are better, but they're not. They're not. It's just as bad.
Oh, it's okay. I think getting to see how the sausage is made is a good thing.
Right
on. So there's a person asking, how do you handle dialogue lettering for your books?
Most of my dialogue is lettered by Russ Wooten.
Mm-hmm. We are out of frame now.
Okay, we are.
Sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
Good. No, just let me know, man.
Yeah,
I'm terrible at this.
But yeah, Russ Wooten.
Russ Wooten, he's a letterer. He's based in California, and he does almost all of my books. I think the only book he has not worked on in the past like 5 years is Beta Ray Bill, because Marvel has their own people that they work with. But for the most part, it's all Russ, and he's amazing and really good at his job, and highly recommended for any lettering needs that you may have.
If people want to find this guy, how do you spell that last name?
Rooton.
There we go. People are asking a couple questions about the course.
Sure.
So I think they're saying, what should I expect with the assignments? Will I come out with a short story, or is it just general knowledge gained? For this one, you're going to actually, you'll be able to make something in the beginning. You'll have some different kind of like recommendations or like guidelines for a story. And then you'll have the same guidelines for an assignment. So you'll make a page that's about certain characters they're being in a certain situation, and you'll get to share those in the Proko community for this Marvel course, where you'll get to have other students comment on these, and a couple different comments from like people here at Proko. And so you have like some critiques here and there, as well as just getting to make individual pages. It won't be you having like some 10-page comic or anything, but it will be stories in those individual pages. I hope that answers that. I felt like I gave a really roundabout explanation of that thing. And then someone else asked if there'll be a free version. No, the only things that will be any sort of free for this course will be that we do take from all of our courses, individual lessons, some like smaller portions of some full lesson videos, and post those onto YouTube. They're edited down. There won't be anyone who's replying to those with any sort of critiques. You won't get direct feedback on those, but there are a couple free videos that can be expected, but it's not going to be anywhere near what that full course is. At this stage in this drawing, what do you think are your main things that you want to make sure and nail?
Well, I'm really close. I'm just kind of, I'm more or less like wrapping it up because I know if I keep adding detail, I'm going to kill it. And I don't want to kill it. Just giving a little more definition to these ninjas. And I think there's this water tower, which needs a little bit of ink on top because it was a little too opaque. My wash is a little too opaque. So I'm going to do that now. And yeah, so I'm going to just a little kind of going back in a little bit and making sure it's, I need the levels tool, like in Photoshop, like that was so perfect.
Just pull like separate things, open that middle space up.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm like obsessed with contrast. So,
with you being a person who does work traditionally, and then you end up sharing something that's going to be at least processed in some way digitally, how do you take that from traditional to digital for your process?
Well, for something like this, which I'm not planning on printing. Some of my abilities and what I'm bringing to the table, not color-wise, but composition-wise, to Proko, the Proko Marvel course, I should say. I want to make a nice recording or a scan it, show and kind of just get a nice image of it, and then it will probably go to my art rep to be sold. But I really like having a good hey, here's what I worked on. Here's why it works. Here's because I like this drawing a lot. I think I've done a pretty good job.
Yeah, especially in so short of a time.
Yeah, and also while talking, which I love hanging out. And sometimes though, my art will suffer if I am answering questions or whatever, which is no problem. But then it's a little bit more of a gamble. Like, is this going to be good? I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
And so I'd say we definitely are on the winning track here. And I just want to make sure I get a good image of it.
So when you're not having to answer questions and be pestered by an audience and everything.
I don't mind answering questions at all. It just takes the final image into question as to whether it will totally work.
Yeah, but when you're not doing that though, what is it that you normally have that's occupying that little lower part of your brain that's not drawing?
I think I'm jumping around a ton, as you guys can tell. I'm jumping around a ton. I am constantly re-evaluating the image that I've made, trying to make sure that everything works, that I'm feeling good about it. And that it's just something that I can be proud of. And also automatically, right? Like I'm looking over at this side of the image and I'm feeling like it's just a tiny bit naked. And I just feel like I need to just deliver a little more because it's just closer. It's not as far away. And so I'm just trying to add just a tiny bit more detail over here so everything seems a little more together.
Yeah.
And yeah. So it's little things, and they're so subliminal, dude. Like really subliminal. Some things that I have trouble putting into words. See there, right there, there was a little bit of that negative space which I just filled up, and it actually really works that I did that I made that change.
Do you think that if you were doing something that had more of an actual thumbnail to it, that it wouldn't be as big of a consideration at this part of the process?
If I had like really taken some time with a thumbnail, I maybe, but honestly, I don't. When it comes to stuff like that, I don't think so, because we're getting into the nitty gritty details that I wouldn't be thumbnailing anyway. There's just no way I would have thought of that. Thumbnailing is more like the general composition, like whether or not there'll be like a water tank up here, which there is, which I did take a chance on. And sometimes thumbnailing means that everything works. Sometimes it doesn't. I mean, it's usually a fail-safe way to like make sure you got all your ducks in a row, but it's by no means guaranteed. And sometimes when working on something that I have thumbnailed, I do need to make a change, and which is always a little scary, because you're like, wait, this shouldn't be happening. But for the most part, things work pretty well.
This person here, they were commenting that you always look so fearless when you draw. Is that born out of the knowledge you can fix stuff as you go?
I think after doing this for so long, there is a tendency that I do have of, well, I can just start over, or the stakes seem like low enough that it just doesn't seem like that big of a deal, if that makes sense. And there is a part of that is why I work fast, because I can really be like, you know what, this isn't working. We need to pivot, or I need to change something. And if I work too slow and things take too long, I feel like there's this added pressure, like the stakes are high. Oh, I've already so much time in this. I need to make sure that I get my value out of it. And you try and make something work that isn't working. So that's why you see me just like sometimes abandoning an idea or going for something right away, because a change needs to happen. Sometimes a drawing just has something that it needs, and I've been timid about it before, and then it'll just bother me for the rest of the drawing's existence.
Yeah.
The fearlessness that you see is born out of a necessity to survive and be at peace with what I'm making in the moment. Yeah,
I think that's fair.
I'm giving it an angle because because of the light, like is. So I'm kind of arcing it a little bit.
For this, I think since you're at a stage right now where you're like trying to show some specific parts, do you want to zoom in and talk about any particular areas that you like or dislike?
Sure. I really like Daredevil here. I love the little grouping of his, I don't know what this is even called, his weapon. I think it just is it's a nice organic flowy thing compared to all of the like very intense like blocky bits.
Yeah, everything else is gridded.
Yes. I think the kind of like devil may care lighting texture here is something that really works well, and I really like. I also like his eyes, and I like the Daredevil logo. I'm really happy with the makeshift cityscape in the background with the very gestural lines over here.
Yeah, this came out great. Especially,
Thanks,
I like if you can move it a little bit, I think to the right on your side. Oh, sorry. I should say so on the top left corner of the full composition. Yeah, like this, like the way that you see the shape of the building there.
Yeah.
It's like a total of what, like 9 lines, maybe max.
I think less, actually.
Yeah, and it's like that's a building.
Yep. It does the trick.
Yeah. So when you're going through and applying a highlight to some different parts, like, so the weapons kind of like the weapons are lit almost as a rule in this.
Yes, they are.
Was that something that you were thinking as you were going through and highlighting them, or was it just more compositionally convenient?
more compositionally convenient, and also like it just kind of highlights the storytelling element of these are ninjas, which I sometimes have a tendency to beat people over the head with,
With ninjas?
which of like just like making sure people understand, which I obviously don't want to do, but it's also kind of fun to just draw like one line as a sword. It's like it's pretty fun. And it just kind of makes everything like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then also Daredevil's. Sorry, I'll zoom out when I count. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then not including Daredevil's weapon, which is hopefully tying the whole thing together.
Literally.
Yeah. And here I'm just gonna do some
textures.
Just some textures to add a little movement. And
what makes you choose to use like just like a jelly roller instead of the white ink as you're going through for this part?
Oh, because it's less work. I will literally just like grab whatever is next to me and go for it.
Like, I think that you haven't smudged as much in this as I think you would normally do.
Yeah, actually, that's another reason why I like working with gouache. Is it is like it dries fast, and I am definitely guilty of like going too fast to the point where I actually will like try and ink over something that's not ready to be inked over yet, and I ruin it. So that didn't happen this time though. I was wondering if it's okay if I do the unwrapping here. Is that all right if I do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you move the mic nice and close so people can hear it?
I'm so sorry. My mic is it's a shotgun mic that's like all the way over here. I'll point it down.
That's okay then.
More.
Yeah.
And we'll see if that works. Okay.
It's good. It's good.
I think this top one is next.
There you go.
Awesome.
That's the tape ASMR that everybody loves.
Right on.
You asked like it wasn't like a privilege for us to be here for this.
Yeah, and actually, you know what I'll do is I'll just really quick while we're wrapping up, or unless any more questions or what have you, just cut off these bits of cut off the working bits.
I see. So a person did ask if the course goes into figure drawing and anatomy. There are some sections that talk about that kind of thing. It's not something that's the full focus of the course. We're more talking about characters, character design, costume design, and some other things like that. But there are some parts where anatomy and figure drawing do get brought up just as a necessity of what someone's doing in layout. But it's not the main focus of the course. There's also another here that I think is a good one. They're asking, when making a page for a studio, or I guess a publisher in this case,
sure.
What kind of instructions can you expect to get as the artist?
Well, usually it's all from the script that the writer will have made and gotten cleared by that studio or company. And I mean, if it's the way it's traditionally done, the writer will be telling you what should be happening in each panel. Or at the very least, laying out the action that's happening on the page, like you might get in like a screenplay. And then it might be up to you as the artist to determine how that action takes place and the timing of that on the page. Every writer is different in the way that they kind of approach script making. It just kind of depends on their style. And I know there are some writers like myself, when I write for somebody else, I write more like a screenplay. It's very rare for me to break things down panel by panel. if there's something really specific action wise that I want to happen, I will mention it, but it's not a be all end all strategy for every artist. Also, artists are different, you know, so sometimes if I write for a different artist that maybe doesn't want me to do it that way, I'll change up my style. And I haven't even done it that much. I mostly just write for myself, but that's what I've found is writers usually will tell you the action that needs to happen on a page.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that are there common notes, like where something that people get most particular about that you do get direct feedback and maybe corrections on most often?
Sometimes clarity, but I've never had that problem. You know, usually I found that if Marvel thinks that you're ready to do a story, they won't have too many notes. I think if anything, I personally get more notes on like script stuff where like I remember like I wanted Bill to have a specific weapon, and then my editor was like in the script I have him using this specific weapon, and my editor was like, "Oh, that weapon's like in the shadow realm or whatever, so we can't use that." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Was it like a specific item, and they're like, "No, currently in narrative, it's
in
shadow
narrative,
realm."
it's like it's in. I don't remember what they called it, but yeah, it's like in the shadow realm.
Okay.
Or you know,
It's spoken for.
Whatever is the equivalent of the shadow realm in the Marvel universe. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's just spoken for.
All right.
And guys, that's how you forge Daniel Warren Johnson's signature.
I think I'm really happy with how this came out.
Yeah, I think this looks fantastic, and the chat here definitely agrees.
Oh, awesome! Thank you, chat.
Love it. Great job. Something. There was one in particular where someone was talking about it. You had said something even like mildly discontent with the drawing, and they were like, "This is bad. This looks amazing." I should have.
I'm self-conscious about using color, especially in public, but that's why I kind of felt like I needed to do it. I was like, I sense fear, must strike it down.
It's a solid way to, I think, actually address that. Like, it's what's that? Immersion therapy.
Yeah, just going for it.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
For your particular section of this course, I think this will be one of the last questions that we answer here. Is there a lot of content about drawing environments in the course or backgrounds?
There is, and that's something that I'm going to switch to my camera if that's okay.
Yeah.
There is, and a lot of that has to do with my sections. I am kind of responsible for the section of this course where we're talking about making environments and backgrounds, especially ones that maybe are not super exciting, and finding ways to make them fun and having interesting ways to show that visually. So I know we've got one of the exterior of
the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Thank you. The Sanctum Sanctorum. Trying to find an interesting way to show the Sanctum Sanctorum, like a top-down shot, 3-point perspective, where we're trying to get little specifics, little things, like somebody mentioned, like cheat things, to make it seem like it's a really lived-in place. It's a place it's like on the block of not Chicago, of New York City. It's important to get these details right. And also, the more details that you get right, the less stringent you have to be on yourself as a draftsman, because you're finding ways to kind of show without having to just kill yourself detail-wise. That's how I operate, as you can tell. I mean, I move pretty quick. You could say I fly by the seat of my pants when it comes to line making, but it's kept my sanity. It's kept me working, and it's kept me from having burnout, which I think is really important working in comics. Even when working by if you're not a professional, there is a thing. It's too much of a good thing where you're like trying a little too hard, and all of a sudden you're in an unhealthy place with how you're making your lines. That's something that you definitely want to avoid, and that's something that I really take seriously. So I definitely am trying to bring that to the course as well. And if you do buy the course and you do see me working, you are going to be aghast at how messy I am. It's pretty crazy, the mess that I get into, but that's part of it. We're like wrestling with things, figuring out what works, and not being afraid of the lines that we make as we put them down on the paper, especially when it comes to environments, which can be so intimidating for so many of us when making stories and comics and stuff.
Absolutely. I guess there's one more question that I think you might want to answer.
Okay.
Do you listen to music often while sketching and inking?
I do.
Who are you listening to right now?
Well, I'm like always a 13-year-old when it comes to making, when it comes to choosing music. So I will always, if I really need to get into the mood and I need to chill, I'll totally just listen to Blink-182. There's something it's like a visual. It just tickles me, it just really feels good. So that's also easy to listen to. I love listening to hip hop and jazz and stuff that requires a lot of attention, but then I find myself drifting from the pages that I need to make. So yeah, that's kind of it's mostly pop punk if I'm really going to listen to something.
Okay.
And then I'll listen to metal too sometimes.
Who's the artist that you listen to the most that you think everyone should be listening to? We have an audience of at least 10 people here right now. Who are they all missing out on?
What am I really listening to right now? There's a instrumental, kind of aggressive. It's not really aggressive. It's very beautiful music, but this artist named Pliny, Plini, that does some really awesome, atmospheric kind of epic sounding instrumental music. It's kind of shreddy, guitar rock, but there's no singing or anything. It's just all instrumental, and it just sounds really good. And I'd be surprised if anybody actively hated it. It's great listening. Highly recommend.
Okay, cool. I think with getting a good recommendation out for everybody, our job is done here today. I think the only last thing that we should probably do is tell people where to find this course. That's proko.com/marvel. It's on sale right now for 20% off if you're watching this live. For anybody else who's watching this later, it's probably not on sale anymore, but you should come and join this course. It's just full of too much good stuff. Daniel, if people want to find you online, where can they find you?
Oh man, if you just Google my name, you're going to find me, Daniel Warren Johnson. It's long, but it is epic. And the only reason I did that is because there's too many Daniel Johnsons in the world. So I had to find a way to differentiate myself somehow.
That's fair. I'm a Stephen Clark. I feel this.
Yep.
There's 1 million of us.
So many. So yeah, just Google my name. I have a YouTube channel. I go live every Friday at around 5 p.m. Central. It's a great time, very chill. You'll see a lot of this there. I hope you check out my stuff. It's been a pleasure to work with Proko. It's been a pleasure to be part of this course. It's been a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw us to one more trailer for this here course, and then you guys all have a good rest of your day out there.
You don't need to be bitten by a spider to become a comic artist, but it does require specific knowledge and skills. Introducing Marvel's The Art of Storytelling, a new online course